Hi, this is Blue Phoenix. Some people like to call me Eric. It's yet again another beautiful day here in Kentucky. We've reached the 90-degree Fahrenheit mark, so it's a bit warm. I'm starting to work up a sweat just sitting here, so I'll try to make this one brief today. But the topic is, I had a question, actually a comment on another video of mine asking, well, what's it like to be asexual? Let me just start with asexuals in general, or some of the common things that a lot of asexuals may experience or feel in their life. One of those things could be confusion. So it's very confusing when you see everybody else around you is into sex, and it's a very important part of people's lives. You know how important it is for reproduction. If people weren't doing it, there wouldn't be any people, which would be a problem. So it's a good thing that people are out there having sex and all. So it can be confusing that you might not be interested in it when everybody else is, especially in high school when all that is kind of budding up around you and you're not really sure why that hasn't happened for you, or is it going to happen in the future. Later on in life, you may realize, even if you've been in sexual relationships and you realize suddenly, like, you've never really been interested in it, and it's always confused you about why you've been interested in that, which kind of leads into the next point of people are always trying to fix you, or they'll say that there's something wrong with you because you're not interested in sex. Or people will try to pressure you into having sex because, hey, you know, they like it so much, so obviously everybody must want to have it. So that can be kind of a big problem for asexuals, that people are always trying to fix them or to basically invalidate their orientation, that, oh, well, what they're feeling must not be right, or it must not be true, or maybe they just haven't found the right person yet, or whatever. That's all the topics for another video, but there's always this constant external pressure that people can place on you to go out there and have sex. It can be really hard to fit in a lot of places, especially like highly sexual places such as like a bar. You go there, a lot of people are they're there to find a sexual partner, or they're there with their sexual partner or whatever. And it can be really hard to fit in those situations, especially going back to the peer pressure thing of if you're there with friends, they might be trying to pressure you into getting into a situation you're not really wanting or comfortable with. It can also leave you very nervous when people are talking about sex around you. Especially if you're not out as asexual, it can be kind of nerve-wracking because you're worried that somebody might discover that you're not really interested in sex. And so this kind of fits into the next part here, where sex is pretty much everywhere in media. You hear about sex pretty much on a daily basis. It's in the news, it's on TV, advertising, you see it everywhere. So to make a kind of an analogy here, think about American football. Maybe you're completely not interested in American football. If you are, then pick another sport like golf or polo or something. So let's just, as an analogy, say that on TV, American football is as prevalent as sex is. So we'll take all the sex out of TV and advertising and the things that people normally talk about, and we'll replace all of that with American football, some subject you are completely not interested in. It may even be that you're repulsed by the mention of American football for whatever reason. Because it's so prevalent around us, everybody's talking about American football. You see it on billboards, there's American football. On advertisement, there's always like some quarterback is advertising Velveeta or something. You'll see it everywhere, and you just don't have any interest in it. It can feel pretty alienating when something that takes up so much of our attention is was getting so much focus in society around us. You would even see it in the way people talk around you. They would talk about football all the time, and they would talk about all these players on these teams and their stats, and you don't really care at all about any of this, and yet it just goes on and on and on. That's kind of what it's like for an asexual, is we hear all these things about sex and we don't really care about it. It's just not interesting to us. Also, as a male, it can feel as though I am not actually that much of a man, because society really expects us as men to be very sexual and basically to bang anything that moves. And if you don't do that, somehow that makes you less of a man. And I mean, it's very prevalent in society. I think it's maybe not so bad in America as compared to maybe places like Europe. I think things are changing here in America, and we see that there are a lot more qualities that are more important towards being a man than just sex. Although that sexual scorecard is certainly an indicator that a lot of males use in their early 20s or even their teens and say, I'm a man because I've had sex with 10 different women this week or whatever. It would be a bit extreme, but I'm sure somebody's done it. Anyway, I think for women, it's a lot different for women, that they're considered more pure or more, not sure what the right word is here, but it's considered like maybe a good quality to not have sex, and so the label pure is applied to them when maybe it shouldn't be. It doesn't really have as much to do about sex as people are saying. It's a little bit harder for me to understand that. Being a man, I don't really understand a woman's point of view on that, but I think they probably catch a lot of flack too over their femininity and not having sex. So anyway, those are some of the negative things about being asexual, but some of the positive things are most asexuals aren't having sex. There are some that do. Either they're compromising with their partner, or maybe they're trying to have a child or whatever. But for the majority of asexuals not having sex, there's no risk of an unwanted pregnancy, or there's no risk of catching an STD. You don't have to worry about contraception because you're just not doing it. Abstinence is the ultimate contraceptive. There's also some sexual people that have this appetite or kind of a hunger for sex that they have to have fulfilled. I often hear sexual people will say things like, "Oh, I haven't had sex in 2 weeks. It's awful." And for an asexual, it's kind of like, it would be kind of like if you never got thirsty and you never had to drink water. So we just don't have this appetite that needs fulfilling, which is kind of a nice thing. So I think that's a positive benefit. Personally, I feel like it makes my life simpler, not having to worry about having sex. But that's just personal. Other people feel like asexuality does make their life more complicated, but I can't really speak to that. Now, when you get into romanticism, this does get a little deeper. Aromantic asexuals, which I'm more closely identify with, I would say some of the problems we have to deal with is being abandoned by our romantic friends. Our friends will, one by one, pair off with a romantic partner, and they don't have as much time for us, generally. I'm fortunate to have some good friends that do make time for me, but it's not as much as it was before they got their romantic partner. There's also loneliness, of course. If you're aromantic and you're asexual, there's a chance of being lonely because it could be hard to identify with other people. And if you don't have a romantic partner around, sometimes, especially if you're living alone, that loneliness can settle in. It does happen. Those are some of the problems for aromantic asexuals. Now, for romantic asexuals, I think a lot of the problems that they might have are dealing with trying to find a romantic partner in such a sexualized society. If 99% of the people expect sex in a relationship, then it can be really hard to find that either 1% of other people that are asexual that you could pair up with, or to find a sexual person that would be somehow okay with making a compromise, either having sex less often than they want, totally abstaining, or possibly getting sex outside the relationship. But at any rate, this can be very complicated for a romantic asexual trying to find a romantic partner. And the dating pool must be just tiny. I think in Lexington there's something like 150,000 people. So just the 1% would be, okay, your dating pool's now down to 1,000. And then, okay, if they have to be a gender that you're sexual or romantically attracted to, and they to you as well. That cuts it down even further, and so on. So the dating pool must just be minuscule for romantic asexuals. So that could be a huge problem for them. In some ways, I'm kind of glad that I'm not inclined towards romantic relationships, just because it's just that much easier. So basically, that's kind of a brief summary. I could probably write an entire book about what it's like, but those are some of the kind of highlights of it I can give you. So thanks for watching. Good news is I'm getting a better camera, and I should have better audio next time. Stay cool, and I'll see you next time.